Well, good morning and welcome to episode 67. I have a message for Ron DeSantis on his bill to eliminate woke curriculums in Florida schools. This has to be one of the most decadent and immoral proposals in modern times. What the hell is he thinking? And tell us, please, who the hell benefits from this legislation? The answer is quite simple: no one. You can't wave your baton and erase history. And we're supposed to learn from history, not ignore it. And to boot, what he's proposing is to whitewash our gross historical injustices simply because he doesn't want anyone, not just students, to feel guilt, anguish, or any form of psychological distress from historical context. And of course, this means white students because all of the races know this about our history. You can't run and hide from this. Let me provide the modern definition for snowflake. It is a derogatory slang term for a person implying that they have an inflated sense of uniqueness, unwarranted sense of entitlement, or an overly emotional and easily offended and unable to deal with opposing opinions. Wake the hell up and deal with it. This was an overwhelming reality that hurts your feelings. I'm so sorry. Why don't you check the whippings, the beatings, and the lynchings that happened daily in the South years ago? You want to know what hurt is? What about the people that were taken from their homes and countries, enslaved with no rights or protections, beaten, whipped, starved, and worked to death every day? And you're worried about hurting some candy ass white person's feelings. Lord have mercy. This was an horrendous crime of humanity. You can't erase this. We need to know this for as long as we live on this planet. We're all in this together, folks, and this means all of us. Mr. DeSantis doesn't want to confront this reality and be reminded of our history. And by history, I mean all history, not just selected parts. Deal with it. We don't need to run and hide. It's weak, lame, and grossly unjust. And what the hell are you so afraid of? You don't like the story, the script? Man up, DeSantis. You can't run and hide from this reality that we created. What a schmuck. So my son recently, I'll get on another term here. My son emailed me recently asking me if I was emotionally unstable, and my reply was, I've never been emotionally stable. Life throws a lot of shit at us, and honestly, I have no idea how to define it since who makes the judgment? And well, I've made it this far. I suppose it's all a matter of degrees. So if I'm emotionally unstable at 69, what do I care? Actually, I've always thought that everyone was emotionally unstable at some point, especially under the right circumstances. I left it at that, and this is a true story. I never found out if he was serious, but I will ask him next week when I speak to him, that bastard. I'm going to borrow a line from the late Norm MacDonald, who I happen to be a fan of, and sadly he passed away about a year and a half ago. He claimed that alcoholism is the best disease to have since you get to drink alcohol all the time. What other disease can make this claim and then also keep you anonymous at the same time? And let's keep God out of politics. I know I'm on a political rant today. He, she, or it has enough problems to deal with rather than attempting to play along with some of the biggest phonies and frauds in humanity. And remember, if there is a God, he, she, or it can read right through you. And for those already in politics or those seeking to become politicians, stop constantly trashing your opponents and focus on solving real problems. You can claim that if you disagree about their policies or political ideas, and if you do, make it specific. And if you belittle or denigrate your opponents, unless of course they deserve it, you're turning the process into a theater of the absurd. Make it next to impossible to get a gun and prompt a total ban of online gun purchases, which would of course be no easy task. The murder rate in this country is beyond belief. Every single day of the year, there are pointless, senseless murders of children, teens, especially, and of course, all people of any age. It's so out of hand. We've become, for the lack of a better term, easily one of the most violent countries in the world, and we were, at one time, the country that everyone wanted to be a part of. If you have the urge to acquire a gun, stop and think about what you're doing. And if necessary, seek help. There's always people who can help you get through your problems, your loneliness, your alienation, or the feeling of being disenfranchised. We need to protect the poor and needy at all costs, as we must remain humanitarian as this becomes a lesson for all who have been aided by us. A healthy and functional populace helps everyone. Our leaders need to be more compassionate and civilized. These are fundamental qualities as they're much more likely to look at the whole picture and see the need for the collective process. And as the saying goes, we're all in this together. That means everyone, not just their side of the equation or particular interest groups. And how about some prerequisites for entering politics? That would be a nice addition since we have some politicians today that are schizophrenic and or psychopaths. This is becoming a major problem. Let schools teach. Stop reeling in curriculums that hide and deny our history. We need to see and know all. The attempts to hide certain occurrences and realities does not enlighten people. The truth does, and we can learn, love, and grow from this information and counsel. Facts are facts for a reason, and I realize that some so called facts can be uncertain and elusive at times. You're allowed to have your view, and we're allowed to have ours. We can all work together and compromise. There's a word that we don't see much anymore in our country. Existence is very complicated, and that's the reason for beyond reasonable doubt. And even that can be deceiving. Allow abortions for women. It's their body and their decision. And note that if you're running for office, if elected, you're a servant, not a tyrant. You are serving your constituents. And this isn't cheap theater for those who use their platform to lie, rant, cheat, and point fingers. Our country has always been divided, and we may be more divided now than ever. And it's impossible to make everyone satisfied. The truth matters, and I realize that there are varying levels to truth. Lies can become truths, and truths can become lies. We live within the constant framework of shifting scenarios and realities. Life is challenging, there's no doubt about it, and we should be more thorough and look a bit deeper into the checks on our political candidates so that we can avoid another George Santos who turned the electoral process into a disgrace, a fraud, and he should be removed from his office immediately. This guy is incapable of shining my damn shoes. He's exactly the opposite of all his so called claims. Really, George? And if you had any integrity at all, you would have resigned your post immediately. Okay, I've said enough. I'm out, and I hope he is also.